Live from the Spill Studios, located behind a liquor store off the I-35 interchange, it's time once again for a couple of cold ones with Corey and Carlisle.
Yes, it is, sir. How you doing?
Doing well, sir, and yourself?
I'm doing all right. Feeling bad for my man Brett Favre, but it's all right.
Who's Brett Favre?
He's a quarterback for the Vikings.
I was kidding. Oh, yeah, he's a quarterback for a different team every year, from
Yeah.
what I understand.
Yeah, he gets tossed around pretty much, but
Well, he retires and then gets effectively traded to another team, and then he retires again, and then he goes to another team.
yeah, there was a time when I said only actors and directors and musicians said that they retired and came back, but apparently athletes can do it too now.
Now, yeah, because there wasn't a guy who used to play basketball who then came back and suck it up
Michael
for a few
Jordan,
years.
yeah. Well, Michael Jordan is different, man. Michael Jordan is not human, so I don't really count him.
Neither is Brett Favre.
I mean, Michael Jordan played basketball with an animated rabbit in Space Jam. Brett Favre haven't done that yet. So.
Always got to name check Space Jam, don't you, Corey?
Hey, it's not like I'm proud of it. Don't sit up here and think I'm mentioning Space Jam because I think that's like my opus masterpiece or something.
I think that's exactly what you think.
No, far from it. That one little shadow I did on there was absolutely gorgeous, but other than that, no, it's I was watching the game tonight. I mean, and I'm not the biggest sports person. I like to watch championships games when as you approach the Super Bowl, but it was just. I'm just thinking, one of those things was like, damn, man, that dude threw that game away, and now he's sitting somewhere thinking how he just fucked up. And I was like, damn, how do you, I mean, when you're that close to the Super Bowl, I mean, you're that close and you throw the whole fucking game away, how must that pressure feel at the moment? Is all I'm saying. I mean, of course I could be thinking about all the thousands of people who are buried alive in Haiti, but,
You could be thinking of that, but
yeah, hey, I gave to Haiti. I can think about some other things right now. No, I like I said, it was a good game tonight, and I just watched it. And you didn't watch the game, did you?
No, I did not.
What'd you do tonight?
I actually hung out with a couple friends. A few friends came over and we watched a movie and just hung out.
And what movie did you watch? I like the way you do. You said, and we just, hung out.
Yeah, I'm trying. Well, because I'm trying to remember. Because I'm looking at it, going, "Wow, it's 1 a.m. What did I do tonight?" And it's like, "Oh yeah, no, I had some friends over. We watched Return of the Killer Tomatoes."
Damn, why the hell did y'all watch Return of the Killer Tomatoes? Out of all the shit y'all could have watched,
Have you ever seen Return of the Killer Tomatoes?
No, I have not.
Okay, see, it's a classic. It's a classic film. It's a B movie comedy that was written by people who really know what they were doing. It's a really smart comedy that pretends to be a dumb, cheap comedy. And one of the chief stars of the movie is a guy named George Clooney, who went on.
That's the tomato movie that he was in. I knew he was in one of those Killer Tomato films.
And he is fucking hilarious in it. He is essentially playing the Willie Ames role in the movie. He's the sleazeball best friend who's always trying to skeeve on all the chicks.
Oh, he wasn't a tomato?
No, he wasn't a tomato, nor was he the hero. He's the hero's best friend. And he fucking owns the movie. He's hilarious in it. And there's some really great jokes in it. The reason in particular I was showing it to some friends is there's one particular aspect to the movie. Throughout the first half of the movie, everything that appears in the film is generic. If they've got a beer, it's a white label that says beer. If there's a cola, it's a white cup that says cola on it. Everything is generic. And then in the middle of a scene, the director calls cut and says, whoa, cut, wrap, people, pack it up. We've run out of money. And they explain that the film is out of cash and they need to end the film. And the actor's like, no, we can't leave yet. I gave up a pilot for this. We've got to do something. And that's when George Clooney looks up and he goes, look, all right, I've got an idea. It's the 80s, people, okay? We need to look into product placement. And he starts giving the speech about how great product placement is. And from that moment on, every sequence of the film has some of the cheesiest, lamest, most overtly hilarious product placement you have ever seen. There's a scene where they cut to the evil mad doctor's house, and in the window he's got a neon Pepsi sign, and it's really goofy and over the top, and it's fucking hilarious. And there's one particular scene in it in which George Clooney is like hawking 12 different things at once that is just fucking priceless. And I had to show some friends this film, and they all dug it.
See, I don't know what's funnier, that George Clooney was in a Killer Tomato movie, or that Pepsi actually gave money to fund a Killer Tomato movie.
I'm not sure if they so much gave money or if they just got clearance to use some of those. Some of the things in them are fake, but some of them are very real, which is funny. Like there's a point where they advertise H&L Brock, the tax people, which of course is really H&R.
I was about to say H&R Block, yeah.
But they're like H&L Brock, which clearly they didn't get the clearance for that one. But yeah, Pepsi's all over that. Corn Flakes, Crest, a number of beer companies. It's really funny stuff, and it's one of those things like people say, oh, they joke with Clooney like, oh, you're in a Killer Tomatoes movie, and he always grins ear to ear. He's like, yep, sure did, not ashamed of it. And when you watch it, you can see why, because he's fucking hilarious. Everybody in it nails it. The Mad Doctor's played by John Astin, who you'll know as the dad from the Addams Family.
Oh, wait a minute, from the Addams Family, the dad from the Addams Family?
Yeah.
I thought that was Raul Julia. That was that dad from the Addams Family.
No, not the movie, the TV show.
Oh, the original
yes.
Gomez.
The original Gomez. He's the Mad Doctor, and he's fucking hilarious. So it's him and Clooney and a bunch of nobodies who never did anything, other than this.
That guy who played, he also did a voice for the cartoon Killer Tomato movie. I mean, not the movie, but there was a Saturday morning cartoon show called Attack of the Killer Tomatoes.
Yeah.
And that guy, what's his name? Gomez?
John Astin.
John Astin. I'm going to call him Gomez because that's how I recognize him. Gomez actually did the voice for, or reprised his character probably from that movie for that Saturday morning cartoon. So Jeez, that guy wasn't doing shit at the time. It wasn't enough for him to do like a little show about it.
He's one of those guys who's done tons.
No,
of stuff.
he's been in a lot of things. He used to make all kind of cameos in the 70s in a lot of sitcoms. No, he's a big character actor. He's done a lot of shit. I'm just saying, what a way to end your fucking career being a cartoon about Killer Tomatoes. But hey, he got paid. And that's what I'm saying. How can anybody talk about how can you go up and tell George Clooney you were in a Killer Tomato movie? I mean, because George Clooney, all he has to do is turn around and say, bitch, I'm George Clooney.
No. He says, "Oh, excuse me, hold on a second. I need to go make a phone call and save Haiti."
Well, no, and then after that, go fuck a model. I mean, it's like, who cares? Yeah.
He doesn't fuck one at a time. He's George fucking Clooney.
Yeah, motherfucker, I got millions and I'm fucking hot chicks, all right? Yeah, you goddamn right I was in a tomato movie. I'm going to go home and fuck your wife after I'm done, too, with a tomato.
There's a really beautifully ironic scene in which Clooney's character is pretending to set up a date with Rob Lowe, like you can win a date with Rob Lowe, and he's setting himself up as the second prize. And you just kind of think about that. It's like, wow, George Clooney trying to use Rob Lowe to get chicks. I think it works the other way around now.
Unless by the end of George Clooney's life, he's like in the Killer Tomatoes part 16 or some shit, and he's on his deathbed. He's not the George Clooney we know anymore. That's the only role he could get. I doubt that would happen to George Clooney.
Yeah, no, I don't think that's gonna happen. Yeah. I think Clooney's fucking set, and I think when he's fucking done, he'll be done.
Yeah. I think he'll be at the old folks' home fucking a nurse before he dies. He didn't look.
I would not doubt it. It's like, oh, Mr. Clooney, you fucked my grandmother too.
Yeah.
Damn right I did. You look just like her.
She was sweet. But and I can't say anything, man. I'm the guy that loves that kind of shit. You know that. Loves those kind of movies. I love bad movies.
The thing is, though, is that the original Return of the or Attack of the Killer Tomatoes is a bad movie that knew it was a bad movie, but it was a bad movie. Where Return of the Killer Tomatoes is actually really fucking smart. It wants you to believe it's a bad movie, so you'll forgive everything that's weak about it. But at the same time, there's so much smart writing, and the delivery of all the actors is just so great, especially Clooney and Astin, that it's one of those movies that you look at and it's like, wow, this really is something that stands the test of time and stays funny. I had a room full of people laughing tonight at this movie, and this movie was put out in the 80s. And it held up. I mean, there's some moments where it's like, okay, that comedy doesn't work anymore. There's a few jokes that do fall flat, but overall, it was really solid.
Well, you heard it here first, folks. Carlisle of Spill.com says, Return of the Killer Tomatoes is smart, which I'm just fucking with that. I'll probably watch it. I'm the guy that got excited over a movie called Thanksgiving that somebody told me about a fucking killer turkey. And I thought
you gotta watch that back to. Oh, did you watch it?
I haven't watched it yet. It's streaming on Netflix. I'm getting around to it.
I've seen scenes from that. That's one of those things that everything I've seen from that, it feels like Trauma.
Yeah.
Where they're deliberately like, look, it's a killer Thanksgiving turkey, and all the actors in the film seem to know that they're in a movie about a killer Thanksgiving turkey and are winking at the camera constantly, which is something like that. You gotta play it serious, or else it's just not as funny.
Yeah. It's one of those movies where they're like, hey, look, we're joking around. No, you got to do the Airplane model, man. Stupid movies like that, you got to have people who take it seriously, even if they're not. They just have to act like they are. That's what makes it so funny. I think that's what people miss from these parody films, is how to like take it seriously when you're really not. I mean, maybe you are, but the thing is, it has to have a serious tone amidst all the ridiculousness. Otherwise, it's too much of a wink and a nod.
Well, you have to. The key to doing a good parody film or a good satire is that you have to genuinely follow your plot. Mm-hmm. You don't have to genuinely end the film. I mean, you look at something like Blazing Saddles, where we get to the ending and then all of a sudden we have a chase that we end up running through the studios and we end up running out into the streets, and we've completely abandoned the film. And that works because up until that point we took the story seriously while telling a whole shit ton of jokes.
Yeah.
And you have to have that, and that's what you don't see in a lot of these films. Especially like the Friedberg Seltzer ones, where they really don't give a shit about the story. They just want to get from sequence to sequence to show you all the movies that they've seen.
Oh, it's just one set piece of bad comedy after another, and they don't know how to be subtle. Because a lot of people think, really? You're going to use the word subtle with these parody comedies? But go back and look at something like Top Secret. Those guys, they put so many jokes in there that sometimes you have to look for it, and people was acting just dead serious in the foreground, but in the background, like there's one scene where they go into a pizza shop, and it's like it has a 50s atmosphere to it, and it's Val Kilmer and these other resistance fighters talking, but in the background, these teenagers are trying to pull this pizza apart, and the pizza. The pizza cheese is so thick that they're pulling like the pizza across the room, and they're not bringing any attention to it. You just have to look and see, and it's because that's funny.
And that film has so many overt references mixed in with very subtle references.
Yeah,
and it also takes tropes and makes fun of the tropes. Like there's that great scene where they're parachuting and he pulls a guitar out of nowhere and starts singing her a song while they're parachuting together. And then you've got the fireplace floating down behind him.
Yes.
Which isn't a direct reference to a movie, but every time there was a love scene and a guitar, there's always that fireplace in the background, and here comes this parachuting fireplace. So, yeah, no, that's exactly the type of stuff that you see in Return of the Killer Tomatoes. It's that level of comedy.
Well, I have to give this a chance. I mean, I was joking around with this person, but I was really thinking about doing it when I said Thanksgiving. I want to rent with a bunch of other holiday films that I haven't seen that are killer holiday films, like Leprechaun and what is it? That Christmas movie, Silent Night, Deadly Night. Yeah, and then I want to see Jack Frost, the Killer Snowman movie.
Well, Jack Frost isn't any good. Jack Frost, and it's not even fun bad. It's just bad. What you're probably the one that recently showed that everybody was freaking out about it that they love is New Year's Evil.
I haven't seen that one. I know what you're talking about.
It just played at a Terror Tuesday, and everyone flipped out and has been singing the theme song for the last month. New Year's Evil. And
how does that go again?
New Year's Evil. There's going to be someone out. I haven't seen the film, so somebody out there's going, that's not how the theme song goes, asshole. It's like this. And, I'm sure that's going to happen because it always does.
Yeah.
I'm sure MDS has seen it and is going to correct me at some point.
Uh-oh.
So, the New Year's Evil, Leprechaun's fun. I mean, the original Leprechaun, you can have fun. Hell, several of the Leprechauns. Brian Trenchard Smith did 2 of the Leprechauns. He did Leprechaun and Space.
And what about the Hood? Leprechaun in the Hood?
I don't think Brian Trenchard Smith did that one. That's the one that people just kind of because remember when they started doing everything in the Hood after Boys in the Hood?
That's what I thought. Leprechaun in the Hood was funny because I'm sure they did that knowing that they were just trying to riff on that title.
And Tales from the Hood.
Tales from the Hood, yeah. Which was actually it was actually pretty cool, man. So a lot of people, they scoff at that movie, but there were some pretty cool segments in there. I mean, because they weren't being serious with that movie either. It was Spike Lee intentionally trying to, do a humorous black take on a horror anthology film. And I thought it was kind of cool, but that's just me. Let me ask you something. Do they have a killer Easter Bunny movie? And I'm asking you seriously.
No, I know you're asking me seriously. I don't know. I'm sure there is. I haven't seen it.
There was a Tales from the Crypt that I read a long time ago where these kids followed this Easter Bunny around, and the Easter Bunny was like big, goofy, and cute, and the kids felt unthreatened by it, and the Easter Bunny took the kids into a factory and covered them in chocolate and started to eat them alive. Like, because kids were always eating chocolate bunnies, that's that's the whole thing right there. And I thought, like, surely somebody has done something similar in film, and I guess you haven't heard
Easter
about
Bunny Kill in 2006.
Oh, did you just look that up? And they have...
Yeah, because I was like, you know what? Because I can't think of one, because I can think of one for every other holiday. And I could think of, and every other, childhood thing. I mean, there's a Tooth Fairy movie.
Yes.
And not just the one that came out this weekend. I mean,
I saw that one. The one that came out a few years ago in the 90s.
Yeah, Darkness Falls.
Yeah, and then there's
the movie that they took away from the director Jonathan Liebesman, and is just awful.
But there's another Tooth Fairy movie because they have an action figure based on that. Because I remember when I was looking up information about this year's Tooth Fairy, they had like some other Tooth Fairy that was released on DVD, and McFarlane Toys had released an action figure.
I think that's the one from Darkness Falls.
Is that okay? Is that like a
because
sequel, or did they just rename it?
The creature design on the Darkness Falls Tooth Fairy was cool. The movie fucking sucked balls through. I mean, it was fucking terrible.
Yeah, it didn't even make any sense. Like, you had to avoid the Tooth Fairy, you had to stay in the light and all this kind of shit. It was like, okay, you're just putting this shit together. You're just throwing shit together. But no, well, if they have an Easter Bunny killer movie, man, I have my whole holiday list complete. That's a festival right there. So
you got New Year's Evil.
There you go, man. Yeah.
April Fool's Day. Happy birthday to me.
They even have a Mother's Day.
Mother's Day, yeah.
And if you want to, you can technically, I guess, count Father's Day from Creepshow. If you want to put the whole
or
thing
you could count the terrible Father's Day with Billy Crystal and Robin Williams,
which is way more horrifying. Yeah.
I mean, you've never had your balls shrivel into your cavity quite like watching Father's Day starring Billy Crystal and Robin Williams.
Yes, I actually coughed up my balls while watching that movie. That's how far shriveled they went. That movie was horrible, man. Oh, and then we have Trick or Treat, which is actually a really good movie.
One of the, but Halloween actually has many good horror movies associated with it. Whereas, I mean, really what happened was when Halloween came out, and then was later ripped off by Friday the 13th. Friday the 13th made so much fucking money.
Yeah.
And Halloween, of course, had done very well that everybody raced to make their own Halloween. Oh, My Bloody Valentine.
Oh, that's right. The original.
Oh, that's such a good movie.
I know you hated the remake, but I even like the remake.
I hate the remake, but the original is real. The original has some really great fucking kills. There's a woman who gets slashed up and thrown in a dryer, and they open the dryer and her body comes out. And there's a couple really awesome kills in that fucking movie.
But for these kind of movies, they need to like step it up for the kind of theme I'm thinking of. Like, we actually have to have a killer Cupid. And maybe it could be a real kind of a imaginary creature come to horrifying life, or it could be just. So you
want the ones that know that they're fucking campy.
Yeah, I do. I mean,
you're talking about not serious horror. You're talking about like the really stupid campy.
Yeah,
horror.
I just thought about if you were gonna do a theme, and it had to be the real campy one, even if it was just a midget dressed up with fairy wings going around shooting people with a crossbow. I'd even take that. Yeah, it has to be something where it's really campy. You're right. And it has to take on the it has to use the actual mythical creature as the killer. What would work for me. But anyway, hey, I know people didn't come here to hear about our list of fantasy holiday killer movies.
Actually, I think that's exactly why they came here, was to listen to us bullshit about this kind of stuff for an hour. But I think what you're trying to get to is the top 5, brought to you by Spill.
Yes, indeed it is.
And it is a big top 5 today, my friend.
Is it a big top 5?
It's kind of monu-fucking-mental, actually.
Is it because of what I think it is? Because something made history this past weekend?
That is exactly what it is.
All right. Well, then tell you what. Why don't we just go ahead and get into number 5?
Number 5.
The Lovely Bones. Still sticking in there. It said right at number 5, brought in $8.8 million this weekend, bringing its total up to $31.6 million. That's Peter Jackson's movie based on the novel of the same name, a movie about child rape and hope. So, yeah, not doing great, but doing a lot better than I thought it would do. So,
I was hoping this would do well. I didn't think it would do very well. I'm really surprised at how much he spent on it. When they were talking about it for the last few years, I was looking forward to it because I was looking forward to him getting back to a nice low budget movie.
Mm-hmm.
Unfortunately, what I didn't realize is for Peter Jackson, he thinks $65 million is low budget now. So
yeah. And I was looking at that. You're right. When I looked at the budget for it, I was like, really? That movie cost $65 million? I don't know why, because those special effects weren't even all that good.
Well,
so.
Keep in mind the big names that he got as well. They didn't work for chump change.
Yeah, the movie was full of names. So, but anyway, not my favorite movie so far this year, and
I dig it a lot. I think it's a really good film.
Yeah, I don't, but hey, but I know people who are on both sides. A lot of people really like the movie, and a lot of people don't. A lot of people even say that if you've read the book, then that makes you appreciate it more. But on the other hand, I've heard some people say reading the book has made it worse for them. So who knows, man? It's just two different people in two different sensibilities. So anyway, you want to move up to number 4?
Speaking of people with different sensibilities, the number 4 film.
Yeah, it is The Tooth Fairy, which makes me very insensitive. This is his first weekend, brought in $14.5 million. The movie cost $48 million to make, so didn't make the big splash that Fox, not Disney. A lot of people thought it was Disney because this looks like something Disney would put out there. So I guess Fox thought like, hey, if it works for them, it could work for us. Not exactly. A lot of people, I don't know if they are just tired of seeing these kind of movies during this time of year, or if they just are tired of seeing The Rock do these kind of family films because he's just not as great at it as some other people, but didn't do all that strong.
This is exactly the type of film that normally comes out in January and that we're normally subjected to.
Yes.
And what we're finding is this did exactly the type of money this type of film does at this time of year every year. Why are other things doing better? Because we've discovered that this time of year is the perfect year for science fiction and fantasy films. That's what people embrace at this time of year, and those are doing really well. This is doing par for the course. This is exactly what people expect. I found out something interesting about the Tooth Fairy actually just the other day. This script has been banging around Hollywood since 1992.
Really? It took almost 20 years to make the Tooth Fairy?
You know how bad a movie this is? This is a script that Arnold Schwarzenegger turned down and did Jingle All the Way instead. Think about that. No, I'm sorry. It wasn't Jingle All the Way. It was Last Action Hero was the film that he chose over this script.
Oh, well, he turned down something that was actually cool for Last Action Hero. But anyway.
But this movie has been around that long. This was supposed to be an Arnold Schwarzenegger movie, and instead it's a Rock movie, which is why people thought of The Rock, and possibly why The Rock did it was the opportunity to do a script that was supposed to be an Arnold Schwarzenegger movie. That might have led into why he decided to do this. One of those things where it's like, look, this is probably going to be awful and it's probably going to kill me, but this is an Arnold Schwarzenegger movie written for Arnold, and I get to be the new Arnold. So you know what? I'll fucking do it. That might be why he did it, but that's how old this script is, and that's how old these jokes are.
Do you think they just kind of dusted the script off? Like maybe they just found it?
They didn't kind of. They dusted this script off and made it.
Which what I'm saying is that it wasn't floating around all this time like it was some really hot property. It was just kind of like, oh, you know what? Oh, yeah, the Tooth Fairy. Well, we got a big guy to do this.
Yeah, I think it was probably one of those things where either somebody had it and kept pushing it around like, hey, I own this script. I think it's great. We can make this. And it's probably been trying to get tried to get Vin Diesel to do it a couple of years ago and tried to get, just whoever was big at the time to do it, and nobody would do it. And finally someone said yes. Or there's also the possibility that it was one of those things where they were sitting around going, hey, what do we have for The Rock right now? Well, there's nothing really floating around that is great. Hey, wasn't there let's go through these old scripts that Arnold used to be attached to and see if we can get him attached to some of those. And it could have been that way too.
Yeah, and I also get the feeling that there was sort of the volcano meteor thing going on here. And what I mean by that, you know what I'm saying? Like they have this somebody hears about a type of movie coming out, like back when we had 2 volcano movies, back when we had 2 meteor movies or asteroid movies. And so the reason why I say might be the case here, I don't know what kind of movie you would call this. You called it like a Vin Diesel movie, which takes me back to the Pacifier. This movie kind of seems something like that. And I'm wondering if because The Spy Next Door was floating around, maybe somebody said, hey, we should get this other family film that kind of has similar themes to it out there too.
Well, nobody ever chooses films based upon what other people are making or thinking of making. It's what's done well. Mm-hmm. Like what happened with the Meteor movies, the Volcano movies, the Ant movies.
Yeah,
those are a perfect example of people racing because they both have projects. They both love their projects. They've been working on them for years. Someone once, wisely said, when somebody greenlit Twister, you could actually hear the sound of 30 other Tornado scripts going into the trash. That quite literally, there were 30 projects that people were trying to make based on that one idea. And once somebody got it going and got people attached, then everybody else abandoned theirs. But sometimes you run into these situations in which 2 companies have it, and they don't want to give it up. And so they race and they race and they get to a point where they can't turn back. And they're waiting for the other people to blink, and nobody blinks, and then you end up with 2 projects. Now, fortunately for us, in the case of the asteroid movies, both of them ended up to being very different movies. But in the Volcano movies, they both ended up being the same piece of shit.
Yeah, I never saw the one with Pierce Brosnan, but I saw the other piece of shit in that.
The Tommy Lee Jones piece of shit.
Yeah, it was a volcano
and Dante's Peak.
Yeah, Dante's Peak. That was the Pierce Brosnan one, and look, the one I saw actually was it spewed shit. I mean, that movie was so ridiculously bad. So anyway, you want to go up to number 3?
The number 3 film of the week.
The Book of Eli was number 2 last week, slipped down to number 3. This weekend brought in $17 million. So far has grossed $62 million. If it keeps going along this line, it might be able to hit the $80 million mark, which is the budget that it took to make.
Well, and that's just domestic. This movie's doing really well. It's going to play really well overseas as well because Denzel's a big draw. And it's just a great film. I'm so happy to see the Hughes brothers made a great film and that this film is hit. It's done really well. And it's a film that keeps chugging along, and I hope it stays in the top 5 for a few more weeks because it really is a film that I really dug the hell out of.
Yeah, and I'm happy to see that the Hughes brothers are doing well with this because if you don't know who the Hughes brothers are, they hit the scene with Menace to Society, which people say is the real, as we mentioned earlier, the real hood movie. It didn't use hood in the title, but it was sort of similar to Boys in the Hood, except that it was a lot gritty,
it wasn't a lot
more
cheesy.
No, it wasn't. It was a lot more nihilistic, man. It was just didn't have anything really good to say. They just said, this is it. This is not hopeful. What you see is what you get. And then they went on to direct films outside of that. They didn't go on to direct quote unquote black films. They did From Hell. They did they tried to do a sort of a Vietnam / heist film with Dead Presidents, which Dead Presidents is a cult classic, but was it a big hit at the theater? I don't think so. So I'm glad to see them do pretty well with this. I think they're great directors, and I'm looking forward to seeing the movie. And speaking of science fiction and fantasy films, number 2.
Creeping in right on Book of Eli's tail, so much so that you never know. We could see a flip-flop here tomorrow when the actuals come in. But at $18.2 million, we've got...
Am I supposed to sing that? Legion.
Yeah,
you flipped it on me right there. We flipped roles. I didn't know what to do for a second. I was like,
oh, for real.
I should have, hey, Legion.
But flip you for real. Yeah, what about the hooker with this dude?
What? What the hell was that? Was that
Benicio del Toro for The Usual Suspects?
Okay.
Flip you for real. What?
Okay.
You hear the one about the hooker with this dude?
I thought first you were doing your impression of me. I was like, do I sound like that?
No, Benicio del Toro, man.
Okay, no, Legion. Yeah, the opening weekend did well, $18 million, man, 18.2, and it is a Screen Gems film. A lot of people thought that it was a Lionsgate film, and it was not. But it's not unusual to think that because it does seem like the sort of horror sci-fi action film that Lionsgate would put out, and it's doing the kind of business that it would do. They didn't screen this film to critics, at least not here in Austin, and I don't think they did anywhere. And still the movie came out to do very well. It's one of those things where they say it's critic proof, don't need to put it out there.
Well,
so.
it did decently well. I mean, it for its opening weekend, it just edged over Book of Eli's second weekend.
Yeah,
and its budget was quite small, and it didn't have a huge actor in it.
Well, that was my point. Is that along that model too, the movie was made for $26 million. So at $18 million, now the movie's got panned. So it's hard to tell what kind of business it's gonna do next weekend. But it's at $26 million, it's easy to make that up on DVD. And I'm not even defending the film because I saw it and I thought it was pretty bad myself. But
oh, did you?
Yeah, I gave it a low rental. I mean, it just didn't make any sense at all. I mean, this movie is it's just scatterbrained with its ideas. I mean, it's a movie where they don't explain any of the religious overtones in it at all. I mean, you have angels who come down and possess the bodies of the mortals who are weak, but they start to act like demons, and they don't ever explain that. And not only do they act like demons, but they are hard rock, kind of road warrior, punked out, dressed in leather demons too. I mean, at first you think they're mindless, and then they're driving up in a car like, woohoo, yeah, we're bad. I was like, oh, Jesus Christ, man. This is fucking ridiculous. So, yeah, that movie didn't know what it wanted to do, which is too bad because Paul Bettany, I love that guy.
I love Paul Bettany, too. Now, apparently Paul Bettany and this director immediately turned around and made another film. So I'm kind of wondering
if... talking about Priest?
Yeah. And apparently Priest is based on a pretty good script. So I'm wondering, I'm not sure, but I'm wondering if maybe this was part of a package deal where it's like, look, we really want to make this. And Screen Gems said, look, we've got the script we really want to make. I'm not certain what the story is on that, but whatever it was, before this even performed, he turned around and was making Priest with Bettany for, I believe, Screen Gems again.
Yeah, I wouldn't doubt it, man, because it just seems like a movie that was thrown together. I mean, really. I mean, we say that all the time, but it looks like they just had to put a product out, and they didn't care what kind of sense it made. It followed no logic. And it just, they were able to get a few okay names in there, like they got Dennis Quaid and they got Tyrese Gibson. So, but the movie's a mess. Anyway, let's talk about movies that are not a mess and that are doing actually very, very well.
Well, that was the number one movie of the week, wasn't it?
Yes, it was. And that would be, surprise, surprise, Avatar.
Avatar, number one?
I know. Can you believe it? Can you believe that?
After all this time, it finally made number one.
Well, actually, after all this time, it finally beat some movies that people were wondering if it was going to beat. Avatar, first of all, this weekend brought $36 million, bringing its gross up to $552.8 million domestically. Now, what that means is that this film has finally surpassed The Dark Knight as the number 2 highest grossing film domestically.
Bye-bye, Dark Knight fans. Too bad for you. You're now the number 3 movie.
Fuck you, Carlisle. Fuck you. Now, here's the other big news.
Oh, MDS is popping corks right now.
What's going on with you in MDS? For people, MDS is one of the guys from the site. I like MDS, but what is going on with you two?
Oh, quite literally, nothing is going on. It was just one of those things where I made a joke about him before, but really, this is one of those things where he was the guy he was the fuck the Dark Knight guy. Remember?
Oh, he was. Oh, he did.
Oh, I didn't. Yeah, he was the guy who wrote essay after essay on fuck the Dark Knight.
That was him?
Yeah. Oh, okay. God, he hates the Dark Knight.
Really? Wow. Okay.
Don't you remember all that anti-Dark Knight hate that he was spewing for a while?
I thought that was from somebody else. I might just have to split my friendship with him. You and I know more, MDS. I can't live a lie with you anymore. No, MDS is cool with me. Hey, I just didn't know that he was he hated the Dark Knight so much. Oh well, whatever. I guess he's rejoicing now because Avatar has passed the Dark Knight. Avatar is number 2 right behind Titanic. And look, there's no stopping Avatar right now.
In the domestic chart.
That's right, in domestic. And there's no stopping the film. It's going to pass Titanic at some point. So James Cameron is going to have 2 movies. Well, right now he has 2 movies here in the top grossing movies domestically of all time. And that's no small feat of its own, but he's going to beat his own film. But
worldwide, this weekend, he surpassed Titanic.
Yes, he did.
The highest grossing film of all time, period. Highest grossing film. 1.8 something
it's 1.8 billion. $1.843 billion as far as being the highest grossing movie worldwide of all time, infinite and forever. Well, maybe not
And
infinite
it's
forever, but
still going.
yeah, that's what I'm
It's
saying.
going to cross $2 billion
Yeah,
before it's done.
there's no stopping this movie right now. The movie has crazy momentum. I mean, we're witnessing history in the making right now as far as box office goes. So
It might be number one next weekend as well. This is the lowest it's made, $36 million in a weekend, and that's the lowest it's made. I mean, this is obscene. It's awesome. It could not happen to
to a nicer guy.
It couldn't happen to I want to say it couldn't happen to a better film, but there are actually better films, but not by much. I mean, this really is a great film. I hate the backlash that's happening on it right now. It's really starting to kind of get on my nerves. I'm reading stories now where people are like, well, everyone admits that the story isn't very good at all. It's just a special effects film. And it's like, no, that's not what everybody admits. Everybody said the story wasn't so original, but that doesn't mean that it's not any good. And that's where the dissension comes in, where whether you think it's a really good story or whether you think it's an all right story. But I love this film, and I'm really happy to see that finally the number one film of all time isn't about a ship sinking. The number one film of all time is about
I got to give it that.
And Marines and mechs and all sci-fi awesome.
Hey, look, I'm gonna be the guy to tell you I don't get it. I don't really see this movie being the number one movie of all time, but I am glad to see that it is no longer about Titanic, and it is giving people what they want in films. I mean, like you just mentioned, it has special effects, aliens, robots, mechs, all that kind of stuff. So I'm not complaining. I'm not a hater. I don't get it, but I'm not a hater, and I do enjoy the film. But anyway, like I said, we are witnessing history in the making here. It is continuing to go, and I know that fucking James Cameron must be just feeling like I really am ruling. I'm running shit around here. I can do anything I want to do.
Oh yeah,
as far as
his
Hollywood
next
right
movie
now.
again. He once again gets a blank check and can go off and do whatever the fuck he wants until he fucks it up.
Oh yeah, he can only even have to go in and tell people what the movie's about. He can walk in and say, "Hey, look, I want $1 billion to make the next movie." Mr. Cameron, sir, you got it. You can do it. We don't care what. No, let me tell you what the movie. I don't care what the movie's about. I ain't got time. I'm going to lunch. Just make it. Just go get a camera and make that shit. So yeah, James Cameron, man, that guy must be the cockiest son of a bitch in the world right now. And hey, look, I guess he has earned the right to do that. So what else is up, man? Any other news? Anything else going on?
No, not well. I mean, my big thing this week was that I finally installed Windows 7.
That was your big project this weekend, huh?
Well, I mean, it's anytime you install a new OS on your system, it's a big deal, and when the OS is as revolutionary as Windows 7 was, it's kind of a life changer.
So how is it working for you right now? No crashes? Everything's cool?
Oh, dude, it's incredible. The features in this, it's an incredibly stable system. I mean, the last few have all been really stable. I mean, people bitch about Vista, but Vista wasn't an unstable system. It just had some very weird quirks. But everything they added into Windows 7 is just awesome. I'm constantly discovering all these new things that it does. It's very intuitive. There's all sorts of new features that just kind of change the way things are done. And finally, not in the way where they ripped it off from what Apple was doing 3 years ago.
I was about to say, because that's what they were fucking doing for the longest time.
Oh, yeah, for the longest time, it really was. It's like, oh, hey, we've invented this great little thing called the recycle bin. It's like, oh, yeah, kind of like the trash bin that's been on Apple forever.
The whole Windows layout and everything it was all being taken from Apple, so they finally went off and did something original now, huh?
Oh yeah, they had a number of really great ideas, and I just this system is just so stable and so pretty and customizable. It makes me very, very happy. So yeah, I've been doing that, and of course that means I updated all my software, so I'm operating on the Office 2010 beta. And I got Firefox 3.6, which is much faster than the previous one, which was lagging really bad for everybody. And I'm just operating on a bunch of new software, and it makes me so happy.
Well, nice. I'm glad you're happy. Hey, you sound like a happy man.
I'm a happy man.
So you get like the little porn widget that brings porn over a little bit faster now. You can rub one out quicker.
No, because you don't want to rub one out quicker. That's what I have the new HD 32-inch monitor for, which is why you have yours too.
I see. Yes,
I mean, admit it. I mean, the 32-inch HD makes porn a completely different beast.
Oh, it does. I just finished wiping off my screen. No, it's
now
incredible.
the downside is it completely changes the type of porn you can watch, because you can't watch the nasty, gritty porn anymore, because all of a sudden every pimple shows up.
Oh, no, you got to go back to like retro 70s porn where they shot stuff on film. You can't do the video anymore, because even back in the 80s they had like that kind of stuff going on, too video, too clear. Yeah, you got to go back, and even though, Harry Bush comes out a little bit bigger and stronger.
A little bit bigger?
Yeah.
That nobody shaved or trimmed in the 70s, my man.
No, everybody looked like
those
they were...
panties come off, you can actually hear the audible...
Oh, yeah. No, everybody looked like they were having sex with a tribble or thing from the Addams Family back then, Yeah, but it translates into old baby do me.
It's so sweet.
But, hey, man.
No wonder everybody had crabs back then.
Yeah, they had a place to hide. Nice and snug. Bug in a rug. But, yeah, that's, you think I'm serious lying, too? No, if I don't want to tell you kids to, like, influence you with pornography, but when you got, like, the big screen TV, you got to go retro with it, man. Back when they actually did lighting and all that kind of stuff. Because when video came out, people didn't give a shit. It was just straight point and shoot. So, but yeah, man, I'm happy about your computer. That's cool. I love electronics and computers so much, and I'm actually happy to see somebody else when they discover new things about the system that they're working with.
Yeah. Well, and I mean, I've got a good system, and the fact that I just updated my monitor setup, the whole, when you add a new OS and add new programs, it's like getting a brand new computer, and that's what I've been dealing with. And since I got since the last time I had a new OS installed was a year and a half ago when I had Vista, I had a year and a half of crud built up, so it's nice to have a nice clean system again.
Yeah, no, well, congratulations, man. And hey, maybe one of these days you'll invite me over to watch some shit on your big screen TV and play around with your nice computer.
Well, why would I show you on that when I could show you on my projector?
There you go. Well, call me over next time. I would say invite me over for porn, but two guys doing that with a big screen television is just something creepy about that.
It's definitely creepy having a bunch of dudes sitting around watching porn. That messes with me.
Hey man, speaking of horrifying things here, I'm getting ready to go to Sundance next week to stay with my buddy James, and I was reading about some of the movies that were there, and I like this whole thing now about, I don't know, would you technically call them horror films? Movies that, like horror movies that don't exactly feature a creature or a monster or a killer. The threat is the elements. Like, they got that movie coming out called Frozen. Is that what it's called?
Yeah, it's called Frozen.
Yeah, then...
I've seen it.
Yeah, okay, so now I didn't play at Sundance. How was that, by the way?
No, it did play at Sundance.
Well, not this year.
It
did. Did it play at Sundance this year?
No, it played at Sundance this year. The thing is that it was written and directed by Adam Green, who did Hatchet and Spiral. And he, in turn, he showed it at Frozen at Butt-Numb-A-Thon. And we weren't... At first, it was like, oh, yeah, we're showing it at Butt-Numb-A-Thon. It's great. And Sundance knew about it, and they're like, yeah, it's okay. It's just a private thing. It's not a public screening. Okay, that's cool. But then they kind of got twitchy about it, so we weren't allowed to review it until it's shown. And now that it's shown, I can talk about it. So it was a very weird thing where they're like, yeah, talk about it. And then all the other producers found out he and one of the producers was showing it, and they were like, no, don't screw it up for us, because they had some problems actually with Sundance because the film, as you're talking about, is about three people trapped on a ski lift.
Yeah.
And it's these three teenagers, a girl and two guys, who get accidentally shut in on a ski lift overnight and are trapped on a ski lift, and the ski slope doesn't open up again till the next Friday. It's Sunday night, Monday morning, and so they may be trapped there for a week in the elements without food or water. And so they've got to try to find a way down. It's about the horrifying nature of being stuck in that situation. And the local ski resorts were pissed at Sundance for booking a film about that topic.
No, I was thinking that the whole time. Like, they showed at Sundance, and skiing's a big thing. I thought that would actually be kind of cool myself, but they got pissed.
Oh yeah, yeah. I think I want to say it was the local ski lift union, or it was the association of ski resorts up there. One of the groups got really hyper pissed and put pressure on Sundance to try to drop it, and Sundance decided not to. So that's why the producers were like, "Look, we barely escaped that. Let's not risk pissing them off any further." But yeah, so I really like this movie. It's a really cool film. It's the Elements films you're talking about, though.
Yeah, they kind of compared to that movie where the two divers the scuba divers were stuck in the water and they would be
Open Water.
Open Water, yeah.
It's exactly like Open Water if Open Water didn't suck shit and Open Water had a likable characters and a good ending. If those three things happened and were set on a ski lift, that's Frozen.
Yeah, and the reason why I was bringing up Frozen because at the same festival this year at Sundance, they have a movie with Ryan Reynolds in it called Buried, where Ryan Reynolds is trapped in a coffin for 90 minutes, and he tries to figure a way out of it. And I was thinking, I kind of like this trend that's going on of horror movies which don't exactly involve a monster of any kind. I thought that was kind of cool.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's we've seen this on and off for years, and it's always refreshing when it pops back up because we keep, it goes in waves every few years. That was the thing with Cabin Fever.
Yeah.
That's why so many of us dug Cabin Fever when it came out, because it was a grisly horror movie that didn't have a monster. The monster was everybody in it, and Frozen is that way. Frozen is a very cool film, but the weird thing about Frozen is that it's that film that makes everybody into second guessers. I mean, not only is everyone in the audience sitting there going, well, here's what I would do. It makes all of your friends suddenly think they're smarter than the movie. And it's that film where they go, well, actually, here's how this happens and here's how this works. And that doesn't work this way. And this doesn't happen that way. And you get to see a lot of that after the film. And fortunately, the tension is good enough in the film that it can surpass that second guessing nature of people. But that's that film that once you go and see it and you walk out, your friends, and if not you, are going. I know when you guys finally see this film, because it comes out next month.
Yeah.
When you guys finally see this film, someone's going to walk out and go, this is bullshit, and here's why.
Well, I was thinking about that from the trailer alone. I was like, I would not have done that, and I think I could have done that right there. But and there were certain things like I don't even want to say. Well, you can see in the trailer like this girl is touching the rail with her hands, and I think her skin is peeling off because it sticks to the. I guess the bar is so cold. It's kind of like when you stick your tongue onto something frozen, a frozen piece of metal. Unless you want to put water on it to like set yourself free. If you can't do that, you're gonna rip a piece of your skin off trying to get set free.
Well, the thing is that she falls asleep. And she falls asleep and her hand ends up on the bar, and so she sleeps there for several hours with her hand freezing.
I got you. Okay, well maybe I'd be dead in that situation then, because chances are I would have been up there drunk and done something stupid right from the very beginning.
that's the ski lift I'll end up on. It'll be you and Cyrus, and you'll be drunk, and Cyrus will second guess anything that I say. I go, you know what? Maybe we'll try. No, Carlisle, this is how it actually works, and we're gonna do it this way. So and I'd just be sitting there going, oh, I'm fine.
And see, I'll be the one that wakes up and I'm like, where's the bathroom? And just walk right off the ski lift and just fall to my death. Oh, I gotta go to the bathroom. I think I'm gonna throw up. So yeah, no, I'd be fucking dead in that situation. But anyway, man, I'm looking forward to trying to see that movie with Ryan Reynolds. And I know you had seen Frozen. That's why I was asking you about it, because I don't know if it's. And now I know that it's playing there. I might try to see it myself. But it comes out in a month, so whatever. But I do like this trend, man. I think it's something different on the horror movie trend that's happening, and God knows we get a lot of dumb ones out there, so this is kind of refreshing. Anyway, you want to get into some email?
Sure.
All right, you got any prepared?
Yeah, let's start off a lot of questions this week, actually.
Awesome.
So let's start off with one of our favorites, Metal Virgin.
She's always right, man.
She's always what?
She's always writing.
Well, she very rarely asks when I put out Twitter calls, but she's someone who interacts with us on a regular basis. So, in fact, when I was when you ended up recording with the guys for a couple of cold ones when I was up in New York, I was like, oh man, what am I going to do? I blocked all this time, so I hop on Skype and ambush her as she pops on her computer, and we ended up sitting around with Moxie and some other lovely fellow whose name is suddenly blanking on me because I was about to mention him.
Some other good chap.
Some chap, lovely fellow. Yeah, we sat up talking on Skype all night. But she asks, how often do your personal beliefs affect your opinion of a film? For example, Cyrus and the Book of Eli.
Hey, okay, first of all, we've had the audio review up. We had the video going up tomorrow. Well, it would have been up last week, but we had a couple of staff members who got sick and couldn't work on that. And so you hear his opinion of that in both reviews. And I could safely say, without any kind of argument, that I think Cyrus, he himself would admit that his beliefs do affect the way he watches films. I mean, anybody who was there with us when we saw Evan Almighty, he came out and said, look, I can't do the review for this movie because it just pissed me off that much. I'm sorry, but I have to go home. And we're like, whoa, okay.
Yeah, but how does it affect your opinion of a film?
Okay, you want me to answer that right now then?
Yeah.
It doesn't. Like, I saw Evan Almighty, and you kind of summed it up the way I felt. I didn't like the movie because it was a bad movie. I didn't care it was because it was about God. I mean, I have my beliefs, and they don't affect me as far as my movie watching. What affects me is that if it sets up certain religious themes or rules, or if it sets up a certain religious atmosphere, I go in taking for granted that that's the world of that movie. And if it works that way, and they actually it all makes sense, then I'm fine with it. It doesn't affect the way I watch movies at all.
Right on. It only affects me in certain situations. There are certain things that actually where my personal beliefs play in, and that's political films and some children's films. Like we joke about The Lion King, and The Ant Bully was one I had a lot of fun joking about. But there are certain films that actually bother me, particularly films made for little girls, films like Just My Luck or Bratz, in which I really have a problem with how marketing targets the insecurities of women and amplifies those. And we have a culture entirely built around the notion that women feel that they are lesser than what they actually are. And I hate movies that sell them on those kind of ideas and sell girls on the idea that they're not good enough, and if they try hard enough and they dress right and they get the right makeup, that they can one day end up looking and being as perfect as the heroine in this movie. But right now you are clearly not, because you're the best friend character with a cat. Those actually really piss me off quite a bit, and I get frustrated with them. I also hate any film that ambushes and tries to preach to children, like Happy Feet, or the ones that really kind of conceal it in their marketing and then unleash it in the film. And that's where I got really upset with Happy Feet, was where if you go back and watch all the trailers for the film, you can see they cut out elements from the film that would tip parents off that this film had a very strong liberal message to it. And it's a message that I think a lot of parents want their kids to hear, but seeing that get ambushed on parents that necessarily didn't want to, or just drop their kids off at the theater not thinking, it's like, oh, it's a Dancing Penguin movie. I don't need to see this. That's where I get offended. Other than that, my personal beliefs rarely play in, because if it's a film made for adults, then I feel that I'm adult enough to accept that any film is going to be told from the filmmaker's perspective, and I need to be trying to see what he's trying to accomplish and whether or not he accomplishes that. So the only time it really plays in is when it targets audiences that are not that are not ready to engage a film intellectually.
Yeah, I guess I can't really say my beliefs don't play into a movie, because they do. I guess I was speaking in terms of religious films. I thought that's what they were asking, but no, my beliefs outside of religion, or even with religion, anything that has a heavy message or gives a false message bothers me. If I know I'm going into a movie and that movie is just one long message about, oh, this is bad, or you should believe in this, or we're going to take the safe approach to this discussion here because we don't want to offend anybody, then I do get upset. Everybody remembers me talking about Lakeview Terrace, and I'm still upset about that movie because I don't think they wanted to approach the real issues, which is, they tried to make it seem like black people had more of a problem with interracial couples than I think white people do, and that's the feeling that I got, and I felt like that was totally false, and I think that was taking a safe route out of a serious discussion. So yeah, I'm still a little pissed about that movie.
That's actually your weak spot. That's the one that sets you up.
Well, a lot of race things do, and I do look at race a lot in films because I think I notice things a lot of people don't, and I know that's. You
also do actively look for it sometimes.
Well, no, I don't actively look for it. I mean, if it's there, then see, that's the difference between, I think, people who don't see it and people who do see it. When somebody doesn't see something, or and I know it seems sort of like an arrogant thing to say, and it's not. I mean, I would gladly tell anybody. I think that just like a woman would see more issues with a film that are related to her, I guess, to her way of life. She would notice sexist issues in movies more than a man would. You would have somebody who would notice like non-religious messages in films, or messages that might like they think might harm their religious beliefs. They look for things in movies more than somebody who like me, who's an atheist, who doesn't. And yeah, I look for race issues in films and I don't look for them actively. I notice them, and I think I notice them. And when I tell people that I notice them, I think people think I'm sitting up there actually taking notes and wondering, oh, what are they going to do that's racist here? And that's not true. I think I actually notice some
sometimes
things.
You get set off by very innocent things.
Well, do I get set off by innocent things or not? I mean, because somebody could say that Happy Feet to you was a very innocent thing, but that thing set you off. That's something that you noticed. And
well,
a lot of people tell
you're
you
talking
that.
about a film that deliberately had a message versus like the one that comes to my mind. Like sometimes I'm 100% behind you. Like when you're talking about Soul Plane, you are absolutely spot on.
But that's obvious. Soul Plane is so obvious. I mean, that's buffoonish. I'm talking about subtle things.
Well, but the one that always comes to my mind is when last year when we reviewed and talked about what was that film called that vignette? He's Just Not That Indian. And there's a scene where Justin Long, who dates we see him with like 7 or 8 different girls throughout the movie. One of the girls was black, and you went off because the movie didn't present a black man with a white woman as well.
I don't know if I went off. I made an observation saying, because I know they do this in a lot of movies, so I didn't hold that movie accountable by itself. I just said, wow, I see this a lot in movies where they think it. When you have a white person who has access to any color of women's bodies out there, that's okay. I mean, nobody really says anything about that because, white male-oriented dominated industry, so nobody really cares about that. But it's like taboo, or it's a big deal when it's not just a black man with a white woman. It always has to be a white woman. It's like when you see an Asian with a white woman, or if you see an Indian with a white woman. I mean, it's like that scene is kind of weird. As long as you get the other minorities together and mingle them together, then it's okay with people. And I notice that a lot in movies, and I know people think like I'm just nitpicking, but hey, I don't apologize for it. It's something I noticed and I'm sticking to. But like I said, I'm not going in there ready to take notes about racism in movies. So right. I just feel like.
But that is your touchstone.
Yeah, it is. I mean, like I say, I think I have experiences in life that other people don't, that make me notice that. But it's like I say, I'm not going to try to hate a movie because of that. Like I've seen some movies where they have, white guys dating black women. It doesn't make me come out and hate the movie. It's just something that I notice, and I might not even mention it in a review. Sometimes I do, sometimes I don't. But yeah, I mean, I think it's hard to say that anybody goes into a movie and doesn't let some belief of theirs to some level affect how they view a film. I mean, everybody walks in there with something in mind that's going to set them off, even if it's on a little bit of a small level. So yeah, I think everybody walks in with some sort of thing with some sort of belief that affects how they watch something.
Yeah, but then at the same time, then there's other things that you just don't like. As religious as I am, and as much as I'm a big, a studier of philosophy and religion, I watched The Invention of Lying this week and wasn't at all bothered by the fact that it was an atheist film making fun of religion. And I saw where they were going with that. I said, oh, this is cute. I'll see where they go with this. And it was a funny film that failed on completely different levels, not on the idea, but in the fact that it didn't know where it wanted to go.
Yeah. Yeah.
Did you ever see that?
No, I didn't see that.
It just came out on Blu-ray.
Oh no, I saw Ricky Gervais hawking that on the Golden Globes, jokingly, of course. But yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, and I heard it's a cute movie. I heard it's not great. Leon
No,
saw
it's
it.
not, but it's funny.
Yeah, no, and I like Ricky Gervais. I know a lot of people think I don't. I went off on something last week that I'll tell you about later. But yeah, no, Ricky Gervais is funny, and I like the movie. I saw his movie. What was it? Ghost
Town.
Ghost Town. I saw that on a plane. I was like, wow, this movie should have done better. I actually like this film a lot.
See, I keep hearing that. I still haven't seen it, but I hear it's a good movie.
I think you like it. It's a clever film, and it does tricks in that other movies do that handles them poorly, and they're very old tricks anyway that they do very well in this film. Like the whole thing. One of my pet peeves in movies is when you have a person sitting next to a ghost or something that other people can't see, and this person decides to sit up there and talk out in public to this person anyway, knowing that it's going to make them look crazy. This movie actually handled that well. So anyway, you want to move on to another question?
Sure. Matt Rosen DP asks, what pet peeves do you have when considering the work of other critics?
When considering the work of other critics?
Yeah.
So is that asking what pet peeves I have with other critics?
Yeah.
Oh, I try not to have big pet peeves about critics because okay, you know what? Let me change that. I do. Let me hear yours first. I rambled on.
Well, I've got a couple, but the big one is I hate critics who spoil a movie right from the get-go or feel that because they think that no one will ever particularly see the movie or they don't want them to see the movie, that it's okay to spoil it like whole hog.
Yeah.
I did that one time, and it was a film that I was writing for an audience that I knew would never see the film, but somebody called me on it, and I was like, yeah, you're right. I really did kind of do that. I did that with Postgrad, where I just kind of went off on Postgrad because I hated it so much, and actually ended up spoiling the ending with a joke, and really I shouldn't have done that. But I see it, especially when critics open up in their opening paragraph, they just kind of completely unleash a major spoiler, knowing that people read mainly the beginning and the ending to try to get a feel for whether the critic liked it or not, and will kind of start being wary when they sense spoilers coming. I know that's how I read a lot of reviews before I've seen a film, where I don't want any spoilers at all. But when you see somebody who just comes out of the woodwork and just says, oh, yeah, and at this part in the big where the film turns like this and becomes this, that's where the film, goes in this direction. You're like, dude, what the fuck?
Yeah. Well, I won't mention Leon's name here, but
well,
I know a lot of people say, I'm joking.
No, I know we do. But when he used to do it, he would do it like well into the review. He would never lead off and go, you know what I really hate about The Dark Knight is when that the whole movie is all about the Joker making Harvey Dent into Two-Face.
Yeah.
And it's like, whoa, you don't start a review off like that. If that happens when you're talking 10, 15 minutes in, that's somewhat forgivable. But there are people that do it in the very from the get-go, and that really upsets me.
Yeah. For me, I get really bothered by critics who get caught up in their writing or their prose, and they love it, and they either love the sound of their own voice when they're telling a review, and they just want to let you know how literate they are. And so they end up writing.
Whiz-bang tilt-a-whirl of colorful exposition.
Well, it's not only
existential delights.
Well, it's not only that. It's like when you get to the end of the review, they've concentrated on writing so much, and they've almost written a narrative, and they didn't give a review. And they end the review not telling you clearly what they thought of the film. They might end their review with things that they liked about the movie, things that they didn't like about the movie, but they never summed it up which side they lean on. They might just end the review with a sentence that says, and he has learned that life is truly beautiful. And it's like, give me a fucking break, man. How pretentious can you be? Just tell me if you like the fucking movie or not. I don't care if you want to just sit up here and babble all day with the big words that you just learned, but you got to give me an opinion. And I hate it when people get wrapped up in their writing so much that they can't give you an opinion. That's one of the main things that bothers me. I think that's probably the main thing that bothers me more than anything else.
Right on. Yeah, no, I definitely feel that. I read those sometimes where they're more egocentric reviews.
Yeah, exactly.
Because really your job is to communicate with an audience, not necessarily to impress the audience. But there are those people that read reviews for that kind of writing.
And
So
and
to a
that's
certain
good with
degree,
them. That's what I'm saying. That's my peeve. I mean, there's obviously an audience out there for it because those people continue to write those, and I think that they actually there's and see, this is the other thing that bothers me, and this is my opinion. It's a little judgmental, but hey, I'm sorry. It's just I can't help but think this. I think that those people who write those kind of reviews, they're appealing to people who want to feel smarter than everybody else, and that's why they read those. They think it's dumb to read something that says, "Oh," and this is my hard cut opinion about this. They really want to read something that seems academic to make them feel like they're so intelligent, and that's why it seems so pretentious to me. It seems almost snobbish, but hey, like I said, it appeals to somebody out there, not me though.
right on. So do you have a question this week?
Yeah, I do. I have one from Nabab, who says, what are your experiences with movie memorabilia, props, assets, and collecting? And you know what he's talking about. Anything that comes from a movie that you could sell on eBay, probably. I don't have a problem with people who collect those. I mean, they've been doing those for years. I mean, ever since movies have been around. My problem these days with movie collecting and movie memorabilia is that we have such a quick turnaround now with something like eBay in this whole electronic age that we live in, digital age that we live in, that we have the era of the autograph hound has gotten more annoying, and it's turned more stalkerish. I mean, we have people. If you watch that James Cameron video that we've talked about on Let's Do This, you see a guy who's out there hounding James Cameron for an autograph. When James Cameron doesn't give it to him, this guy gets really defensive and just downright mean. Now, James Cameron can kind of come across as an asshole too in that video, but you hear rumors that James Cameron knows who these people are because they know where he is when he gets off the plane.
This guy in particular was a professional autograph dealer.
Yeah,
and everybody knows who he is.
Yeah,
because it's always there.
And his stuff popped up on is always popping up on eBay right after he gets an autograph, and it's that level of collecting that I just think is disrespectful, could be dangerous sometimes, and I think it's very annoying. And so that's the only thing I don't like about collecting movie memorabilia. It just seems like nobody does it for sincere moments anymore. Sure, people sold that stuff back in the day, but they sold it after they collected all that stuff, and sometimes it was hard for them to sell. Maybe they needed the money, maybe they wanted the value to go up, but these days people flip it, and that bugs me.
That bugs me too, but really there's a fine line between memorabilia collecting and memorabilia whoring. When if you're going to sell a prop from a movie and it's a movie that people dig, hey, rock on, that's great. Selling a half-eaten sandwich, a grilled cheese sandwich that was eaten by Peter Mayhew to Star Wars fans is not okay. That's where it becomes creepy and it becomes really gross.
Yeah, and that's what I meant by stalkerish and creepy, because you hear about people selling things like fingernails or somebody's hair. You hear people selling tampons and shit like that. I mean, I know that stuff, if it's true, I have to say, I don't know if a lot of that is urban legend or not, but if it is true, that's disgusting and it's just downright weird. And it's weird that we have people out there who buy it. And I don't know, it just kind of level of collecting bothers me.
Yeah, it bothers me as well.
You got anything else?
Yeah, I got one last one.
Okay.
Running long tonight, but that's cool because I got a good question. This comes from Grog42. Earlier tonight, we were having a discussion on Twitter. Edgar Wright had responded to some people because he had told people, hey, go out and see this movie, Big Fan. It was an underappreciated film from last year. It's really good. It stars Patton Oswalt. I just saw it this week. It is a really good movie. You should go out and check it out. And instantly people started messaging Edgar saying, hey, thanks, I'll torrent it right now. And Edgar Wright was just like, whoa, what are you guys doing? It is not okay to message a director and tell him, hey, I'm torrenting a movie. You have no idea how offensive that is to us. Don't torrent it. There's a number of legal ways to get it. Go out, buy it, go out, rent it. In fact, someone else mentioned it's on Netflix streaming right now. You can go and Netflix stream it. As long as it's in the chain and getting money, it's cool. And so people started doing what they do every time this issue comes up, is asking. I had retweeted it, and so I started getting questions asked about, well, is it okay in this situation? Is it okay in this situation? And so he asks, Grog42 asks, where do you suggest finding independent and foreign films without using torrents?
Well, like you just mentioned, there's Netflix streaming. Here's the thing about Netflix streaming, and I'm sure you can elaborate on this, Carlisle. I mean, Netflix and I've talked about this other day on a call-in show. It's like their business model is set up to where new releases are getting harder for them to get. Now, Netflix is really they're going to become more mainstream because it's just like the music industry. Everything's going digital, and studios are going to have to embrace it. But right now, you got Netflix that studios who are talking about, well, we're going to make you wait like so many days before you even get to like ship a DVD to you that you can like ship out to your customers.
Well, kind of. What Netflix did was they made a deal with Warner Brothers, and other companies are looking at it, that they won't ship new releases in the first 30 days.
Yeah, and there's other studios who are talking about doing that, though.
In return, though, nobody's talking about what they got in return for that. What they got in return for that was a huge catalog of classic vintage Warner Brothers films for their streaming catalog.
Then that's what I was leading up to. A lot of these studios are saying, we're not going to give you these new releases because we got to stagger it at the moment because we got to make money. Now, if you're looking for classic movies, both foreign and domestic, depending on where you are, Netflix, they have a whole back catalog of classic films. And they're pretty much open to having them because, they're not new releases that are affecting any kind of money that studios are making immediately. So that's really one gold mine that you can go to right there, and it's legal.
Yeah. Now, the other thing is that what he's particularly talking about is probably the harder to find stuff. Now, indie stuff right now, everything indie, everyone's figured out Netflix streaming is where it's at. That's how you can get a movie out. When Magnet was really smart and put several of their films on, films like Let the Right One In and Time Crimes, put those instantly on Netflix streaming, and everyone was able to watch it and discover it, building the legend of these movies. People started going out and buying the DVD because they fell in love with the films and wanted to always have it. Many companies have run to put this out. Big Fan just came out on DVD. Along with World's Greatest Dad, also just came out on DVD. Both of those are available on Netflix streaming right now because these indie films are trying to build word of mouth that way. So you're going to see a lot more indie films that way. But the harder to find foreign films, the really just rare foreign films, how do you get those? You do it the way we've always done it. You get yourself a region-free player, and you can find those at a number of places, and you import. Or you go to stores that rent imports. Here in Austin, we have a couple that over time have rented imported films, stuff that's not out, and support the filmmakers and support the stores that, support this kind of stuff. Buy the film. If you hear that Rec 2 is really awesome and Rec 2 isn't going to be out here in the States for a while, but it's out on DVD in Spain, import the Spanish version. Don't torrent the film and see it, months early online for free. Get in the chain, buy the film, or rent the film from a legal place and get to see it that way. That's what I highly recommend. I mean, that's how we've been doing it since I was many of your age. I remember when I was 18 years old and going down to the Asian video store with my roommate and just sifting through their titles and watching, Asian films that way on VHS and getting exposed to that world by just going to the store and immersing myself in the imports. That's typically how it's done. The whole streaming thing, it's creating a whole era of these films not being able to really perform. And so people moving into different careers, different venues, and different film types because the type of films they want to make aren't profiting because people are watching the movies for free instead of paying for them.
Now, see, this is where I really put a plea out to the studios to just learn how to work with this streaming stuff, this technology, because first of all, the independent directors, they're at a really critical position right now. You heard, I think, was it James Cameron that I heard talking about this? It was some big director. No, it was George Lucas who was saying that, listen, your theaters are going to become more about the blockbuster. I mean, then it's going to be your place to go see an event film. A lot of these smaller movies, the independent film, the art film, that's going to be restricted more and more to something like Netflix and to streaming. So there's a lot of people who just have a certain genre of film and certain careers that they seem to be threatened because It's just they're being kind of pushed out of the bigger venues. And also, I mean, and I agree with you. Look, I agree with you on everything. I know there was a time when you thought I was disagreeing with you, and I wasn't. I just said that realistically, people are not going to stop streaming movies. It's easy to tell somebody to go out and get a region-free player or to look for a video store to order this stuff, and that is the proper channel of doing that. But there's always going to be that temptation there. It's always going to be easier. It's always going to be some limitation that's going to force people to stream these things illegally. And as soon as the studios learn how to embrace this technology, you're going to be like it was when Apple introduced iTunes. You're going to have a better model of getting your money back through a medium that you were threatened by at first and learn how to work with later. I think, that's what I believe with the whole streaming thing. I love streaming, by the way, so much that I want everything to stream now.
Oh, no, I'm the same way. I mean, I absolutely love video streaming. It's completely changed the way we watch movies. It's killing the video stores. And you know what? It's a model that needs to die. The video store is over with. It's had its day. It was great in its day. I mean, as somebody that worked for video stores for 6.5 years, spent my entire life practically living in video stores, it really is a model that is of its time, that 20, 30 years from now, us old timers are going to talk back in the day. Oh, we used to go to the video store. We actually had to go in, and if the movie wasn't there, we couldn't watch it.
Da, da, da.
And these kids looking at you, the guys going, what do you mean if it wasn't there? Why didn't you just click the button and stream it?
Because we didn't have that goddamn button, you little whippersnapper.
And people are going, it's gonna be like back in the day, like we are with, what do you mean you didn't have television? What do you mean you all sat around in the living room listening to the radio? That sounds retarded. But
oh, yeah.
That's how it was.
What do you mean you sat around the radio and you listened to a show? How come you just didn't record it, and listen to it later? So
why didn't you buy the album?
Yeah, yeah. Well, hey, you know what? I got a real quick question we can go out on, because you can answer this very easily. This is from Masaru Kasuaki. And they say, have you ever seen a film adapted from any other media that was so unlike its source material that you wish it was never made? Yes, we just talked about this the other day. Catwoman. Right, that's nothing like its source material. I don't even know why they made that movie after such a disaster like Batman and Robin. So that's my biggest one.
Yeah, he's asked this question of me every week. I keep passing by it because this is literally such an open-ended question. And there's an easy, quick answer. There's about 1,000,000,006 other answers, and it's really something that where do I start? Catwoman is a great example.
Yeah, but you're right. There's tons of them out there. I just kind of read this as like, hey, we can answer this real quick with one answer and get the hell out of here.
You know what? Wanted is another great example.
Personally,
I liked Wanted because I hadn't read the book, but after seeing the movie, someone handed me the book, and I'm like, holy shit, this is the movie I want to see.
Man, you know what? I was the same way. I finally read the book after the movie came out. And I didn't like the movie in the first place. I didn't like it that much. There were certain things I did like about it.
I thought it was goofy fun, and I thought it was a good, fun blockbuster, and I loved seeing Morgan Freeman say, shoot this motherfucker.
Yeah.
That's one of the greatest moments in cinematic history. Quoting that for 10 years. People aren't even going to remember the movie, and you're going to be going, shoot this motherfucker.
Yeah. No, you were right about that. That had one of the best lines ever in the film. But as far as the movie goes, it's nothing like the book. In the book, just was more satirical, had a better it had a better story, and
you could remake that comic book and people would go, this is kind of like that movie Wanted. Well, but it wouldn't actually be Wanted.
No, and you know what? A lot of people say, well, man, that's wrong right there. They couldn't get away with that. They couldn't get away with that. I was like, look, modify it. You don't have to take it literally, but they went and just really just pretty much rewrote this to where it was something different, and I kind of found that a little offensive, but anyway, that's our show, man. I know you want to get out of here.
That's the show. It's time for me to go pee. So
you've been holding it all this time?
Well, I drink a pot of coffee before I do this thing, and it's like it always kicks in right at an hour. Just for some reason, my body goes, "You've been recording for an hour. It's time to pee."
Wow, you probably got to pee and shit and everything else. Let me let you get out of here, man, so you can go relieve yourself.
Well, thanks for going the extra mile there with number 2. Good night, everybody.
Good night.